This next speaker in the semifinal changed the way I spend my free time. Yeah. Something I should have learned from my Finnish friends. Just enjoy the silence and you'll get the brain fuel. Beautiful insight, but he's got more for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. He's the co-founder, CEO of the Focus Academy. He'll be diving into the future of work with a great title, How to Thrive in the Age of Distractions. Mark Tigchelaar.
Thank you. Thank you, Andre. Hi. Hi. Hello. It's so great to be here. Let me start by telling you something that I found fascinating. Did you know that merely thinking of your to-do list can actually make you blind? A few years ago, I was asked to coach a senior vice president, and she asked me if our coacher could coach her with a unique problem. She kept bumping into tables, objects, and even people. She had her eyes checked, and her eyes checked to be fine. So what was wrong with her? Well, after examining her in more detail, we found out she had a lot on her mind. She was constantly thinking about the things that she needed to do, and essentially she was distracted by her internal to-do list. And this affected her mental ability on such a level that it even impacted her capacity to process the visual information of her eyes. Maybe you don't bump into tables all day long, but maybe you can relate to the feeling of being distracted. Did you know that the moment you're getting distracted, your brain is split in two? The moment you're getting distracted, part of your brain tries to deal with the distraction, while the other part tries not to forget what we're working on in the first place. As a result, we cannot utilize our full brain capacity at that moment. And this slows us down big time. It even makes more likely to make mistakes. What's really shocking? A study among hospitals showed that distraction is the underlying cause of more than 40% of the medical mistakes that are made. And that's not even the worst part of it. The flood of distraction that we have to face every single day prevents us from diving deep, prevents us from truly getting immersed for the task at hand. And this is something that really worries me. Let me explain. The moment we perform a task, we have some time to get going, some time to get in the zone or get into the flow. Let me show you what it looks like in the brain. The horizontal axis represents the time, the vertical axis represents our productivity. And as you can see here, in the first few minutes, we're not that productive at all. In fact, the brain needs to make neural connections in order to be able to think. So the neural connections need to form in order for us to preform. And as a result, after a few minutes, we're getting into the zone. Oh, this is distraction. We made a comment. It's done. Good. This is distraction in action. Yes. You all passed the test. So the more neural connections we make, this is the second one. Don't look for the elephant in the room later. So the more neural connections we make, the stronger our brain becomes, and the better we're able to think. So the faster we can read, or the faster we can absorb information. If we can sustain it even longer, we even get to the flow state, and you're all familiar with that, right? If we can sustain it for too long, though, our productivity tends to decline because we're getting tired. I think that makes sense. If I add a second line to this graph, the horizontal axis once again represents the time, but the vertical axis now represents how much effort the task requires. And it looks like this. As you can see here, in the first few minutes that we're performing a task, we need the most energy from our brain because the most energy is needed to form those neural connections. You can almost compare it to an airplane taking off. In the first few minutes that we're taking off in an airplane, 40% of the gasoline is being used. Same goes for our brain. In the first few minutes, those forming of the connections requires a lot of energy. After, in the flow state, we're optimal productive, we deliver our best work, and usually that requires very little energy. But here's the thing. We usually don't get to the flow state. Ever had that you're working on an article or working on a project, you're almost getting into the zone, but then a coworker steps in. Hey, I'm sorry, do you have a minute? Ever had that? Let me add that to the graph. The moment we're getting interrupted, the neural connections start to get loosened and even evaded. The moment we're getting interrupted, the brain starts once again need to reform those connections. And how often do you think this is happening? Meaning, how often you think you're getting interrupted? Take a wild guess. If you're at home, you can type in the chat. What do you think? How often per day you're getting interrupted? 50 times? If you're working behind a computer, it's every 40 seconds. This means that every 40 seconds, we fall off this mountain and have to crawl up back again to get back into the zone. And this is costing a lot of energy. The result? Most of us put off more the complex tasks. You can see this in many areas of our life. One of them is our reading behavior. We used to actually read a document with our undivided attention. Nowadays, most people just scan a document or don't read it at all. There's even an acronym for this, TLDR. Too long, didn't read. You know what's really scary? Even judges are not immune to this. Whenever I'm giving a keynote to a judge, they always tell me, I'm getting so many interruptions nowadays, I cannot process the information anymore. This means they have to make important decisions based on nothing more than fleetingly acquired knowledge. As we're faced with more and more distractions every day, it's beginning to have a serious impact on our society. How do we hope to tackle the big challenge we face as humanity if we can't even think straight for more than 40 seconds? Hi, my name is Mark Tigchelaar, typical Dutch name. I have a background in neuroscience and neuropsychology, and together with my team, we help knowledge workers and professional athletes to get a grip on focus so they can thrive. And during this short presentation, I would love to show you how we can all break free from those distractions, how we can gain back control and thrive with all the distractions that are happening every single day. And the first thing that I'd like to share with you, that it's completely normal that we're getting distracted. In fact, our brain was not designed to be focused at all. From an evolutionary perspective, we constantly had to scan our surroundings for potential danger or new opportunities. So it's completely normal that we're now ping-ponging with our attention all day long between WhatsApp, email, MS Teams, or the latest update on Bitcoin. But when we're pulled in 1,000 directions, we don't gain momentum, we get motion sickness. If you want to thrive in the age of distractions, you have to minimize the number of switches that you make during a day. In almost 2 decades that I'm working in this field, we found out there are only 4 reasons why we switch with our attention and therefore lose our focus. We call this the 4 concentration leaks. Let me walk you through them one by one. The first one, I think the most obvious one, is too many external distractors, too many phone calls, too many chat messages. The challenge here is we want to be available all day long for our friends and family. This means we're being torn between being available and being focused. But open any biography of a great thinker, artist, or business leader, and you will find that most of them are not available all day long. They retreated to their own personal space to actually think uninterrupted. The second concentration leak is too many internal stimuli, meaning our own mind. All the unfinished projects that pop to mind, emotions that lingered on your mind, or the new insights that you might gain. And this was especially the case with the woman who kept bumping into tables all day long. Her internal distractors were a bigger distractor than her phone and email combined. The third concentration leak, I found this the most interesting one, is too little energy or too little brain fuel. To put simply, our brain runs on fuel pretty similar to your car. And at some point, your energy runs out. You need to recharge yourself. But what most people don't know is you cannot recharge your brain when you're taking in new information. This means whenever you're scrolling through LinkedIn, you're not recharging your brain. You can only recharge your brain if you do something the Dutch call niksen, meaning lummelen, meaning doing nothing, going on your bike, for instance. The challenge here is that most people find it a little bit scary to do because you're not productive at that moment. But the tendency to be productive all day long is exactly the reason why we're not. The last concentration link is too little engagement, meaning if something is too simple or going too slowly or simply too boring. Maybe you have a similar experience. You're reading a text, it's a quite simple text. Halfway through the page, you realize, oh, I have to call so-and-so. Oh, I have to do this and this. And at the end of the page, you have no clue what you just read. Ever had that? Yeah, you're not the only one. The opposite is also true, right? If the text is really engaging, you're really focused at the text that you're reading. So this is how it works. The cool thing, and I'm a nerd, so I like this, the concentration leaks are actually form a formula. A formula and a framework that you can use for yourself, for your team, or for your organization to get a grip on focus. And the formula looks like this. Yes. Focus is the combination of how engaging the task at hand is, combined with how much brain fuel you have. Those two combined need to be bigger than the internal distractors, meaning your own mind, or the external distractors. It's not and or, because you can only focus on one thing at a time. And this is a tool that you can use for yourself or organization to steer with and to play with focus. To conclude, we're more distracted than ever before. And this has a serious impact on our thinking abilities. And for that reason, I think this has a serious impact on the challenges that we face as humanity. And the challenge also is that the brain was not designed to be focused at all. So it requires the effort and creativity of the brightest people to create an environment that's more brain-friendly. Wouldn't it be cool if apps weren't designed to grab your attention all day long? Wouldn't it be nice if we weren't bombarded with information all day long? What if we all stand up against distraction and make that happen? I believe that with more focus, we can use our full brain potential. We can deliver our best work. And I believe it makes it easier to tackle the big challenge we face as humanity. Thanks for your attention. In time this time.
You're way under time.
This time. Last time I was overtime, so I had to compensate.
I love the energy. I love the energy. I love the energy. Wow. Thank you so much for that. And we got questions.
Hey.
It's hard to choose which one I'm going to take. But you know, I personally sometimes feel guilty. You know, I practice what you preached, and
I know.
and then I'm inside, and I feel guilty that I'm not available. It's a terrible feeling, but I'm going to change that. But let's go to their question. This is a very good. This is a very good one. Oh my God, did he? Yes, this is the one. You put it up there. How nice of you on the platform. Thank you. So yes, do you see any generational differences in focus as
Yes.
Gen Zs are entering the workforce?
Yeah.
And how is that going to change
Evolve.
the culture?
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, if you look at the old films like in the 1950s, you see they're really slow in frames, like very slow black and white movies. Nowadays, they're really fast. We need more stimuli. And even you can see it on Netflix, you can put it not on 100%, but a little bit faster. Or whenever you listen to a podcast, you can speed up a bit, otherwise you might be bored. I call this a dopamine inflation. And you now can see even younger people, they're having a conversation, but at the same time they're listening to music.
Yes, my son does that all the time.
So I believe there is something going on, and it will definitely change later on and have an effect on our work life. Yeah.
We're all going to need you a lot into the future.
Thank
Thank
you
you very much. Give him a big hand.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Yes.